Hello.
We made it.
We are here. We are back. Same old Blether, new season.
Yeah.
We just had some technical issues getting Jack camera working, so we've come to a technological agreement. What do you call that when you
Like a impasse type thing of with kind of defeated with what we can do. We just have now a photograph of Jack and his voice hovering in the background.
I mean, he does look super dapper in that photo, though. So, no blemishes. A nice iron shirt next to a super good geeky looking board. It sums up what we're all about, really.
He definitely
Not
looks.
technology, but cool guests.
He looks a lot more professional than the last time I saw Jack in the flesh. But we'll get to that story in a minute when we get him on properly.
No, poor guy. I've just told him we can't speak for a second while we do an introduction, and you say that. That's crazy. Good evening to everybody watching at home. Thank you for your patience. We're only 12 minutes behind. That's not the latest we've ever been.
And not actually my fault this time, Dave. I did see that comment earlier up the screen there. Not my technology this time. But yeah, it's nice to be back and see all these little happy faces. Well, not faces, these little wee happy circles with their names next to it. Our little wee Blether in our back waiting for us. I love it.
Yeah, great to have you all on. Good evening, Willis. Good evening, Frank. Good evening, Tim. Dave has got the 16-year-old Glen Talkers. I noticed you had that the other night on your Facebook. Good evening to Willis, who's got the Swedish High Coast Berg. What a dram that is. We got it back into the shop last week after a bit of an absence, and just remind myself how good it is from the High Coast Distillery in Sweden. Really good sherry whiskey. Frank's got an empty glass. Norrin, good evening to you. I think that's a new name for us from our brethren. But thank you for joining us. Good evening to you. Hope you enjoy the evening. Dave is asking, does anyone else see a purple crown next to their comments? We don't see that. I don't know what that means. You've got a purple crown. Means you're the king of
the Blether. Maybe it's like, do you not get that on Facebook? If you interact with a page, you get like a sort of
a star.
Yeah,
but these guys are on YouTube, so it's maybe a YouTube version of that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I have no idea. Well, Jack might know. We've got Robin, we've got Wraithen, another new name. Good evening to you, Wraith. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Raeth. Give me a thumbs up if it is correct. Give me a virtual slap around the face if it's not. And then Mark Watt, Callum Fraser, Billy Abbott. We're rounding off the comments with three legends of whiskey.
And that three stacked up.
So much. Some have gone deep purple, says Willis, like the band. There's a little riff going on in the background
there. So Billy says it's a league table of channel fans. It's where you are in the league table of channel fans. I don't know, like.
So is a deeper purple better than a light purple?
I don't know. Let's find out what Dave's color purple is and compare it to Willis's and find out which one likes us the most. How purple is your purple, boys? On a scale of 1 to 10.
Violet? Are you indigo? Are you I don't know.
Mauve. Puce.
I think that's as far as my knowledge of purple colors go.
Yeah.
Deep purple rocks. Absolutely, Billy. I hear you. The cat gave me the face there that maybe she didn't know who Deep Purple were.
I don't know. I feel like I should, but I don't. Yeah, okay. That's cool. Nice to see some
anyway. Jack, we will say hello to you. Welcome to the Blether. As you have probably gathered, if you haven't walked out on us already, we tend to go off track a little bit. But I am super excited to chat to you about the infinity that is Barley chat.
Thanks very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
It's great.
Awesome.
I mean, if we could see your face, we would really be able to see how excited you are. I'm sure.
Yeah, I know.
You can hear it in your voice. So, a little context. I met Jack. I'm going to embarrass you now, Jack. I met Jack for the first time while he was dressed up as a Thunderbird.
He's wearing the same outfit. That's why he's not turning his camera on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Jack was in as the groom to be at a stag party at the distillery. And I love getting stag parties in because they all come in like lads, thinking it's going to be like a big booze up. And you literally talk to them for about 2 hours about chemistry and history. And most guys you can see kind of deflating. Jack was the most exciting person ever. And literally all his like lads were dragging him away saying, could you stop talking about barley, please? We're meant to be drinking alcohol. Like the bus was like literally waiting. Everyone's like, oh, why the hell did we take him to a distillery? Whose idea was this? So I was like, I've got to get you on the Blether. So that's how we ended up meeting and finding out that you are pretty much like a leading expert in all things barley. I didn't know where to start with that. Like, give us a story and what you do.
Yeah, it was a great stag do. It was great to visit the distillery, and I remember being there, so that's a plus. So I am a PhD researcher at the University of Aberdeen, and I am a microbiologist and barley scientist studying nitrogen use efficiency in barley. So across the globe, we have a serious problem with nitrogen use efficiency. About 40% of the nitrogen fertilizers, which is extremely important to plant growth, 40% are completely lost. And that's driven by a microbial process called nitrification. So these microbes eat the fertilizer, there's less available for the plant, meaning that we have to apply more. That's an economic problem, but it's also an environmental problem. The fertilizer is converted into nitrate, which is a form of nitrogen which causes water pollution, and nitrous oxide gas, which is a potent greenhouse gas. It's 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide in global warming potential, and it accounts for 7% of Scotland's greenhouse gas emissions. So tackling this issue in barley agriculture is an environmental issue, it's an economic issue, and it's important for the future of the whiskey industry. Not only to make the industry more sustainable, but to make it more economically robust going forward. So that's where my research comes in. I'm interested in compounds produced by barley roots that stop these microbes from doing that, and that's where my research interest is.
That is very specific as well. Like, how do you even get into that? Like, what is the journey of? Yeah, how do you hone in on that specificness of that?
Absolutely, it's a bit of a convoluted journey. So I'm from Aberdeen. I went to Robert Gordon University and studied biosciences because I was interested in science generally, but really I wanted to move into brewing and distilling. But during my undergraduate degree at RGU, I became passionate about microbiology and started doing microbiology research during my final year at university. That was in 2020 when COVID hit, and looking for an alternative employment after my university career, I pivoted into working in a COVID lab. So for 2 years, I worked in a COVID lab doing COVID tests. I had the big white gown on and the respirator. From there, I decided that I wanted to move into research and made a connection with the current group that I'm working with. And our group are interested in these microbes that eat fertilizer. They are known as nitrifying microbes, and they're ubiquitous. You get them at the bottom of the ocean, but importantly, you get them in soils. And that's where our group comes in. So I work with our group that works with these nitrifying microbes, and I work with the James Hutton Institute in Invergowrie. and they're the barley specialists, and that's how we got into barley.
So that is an amazing journey to be pivoted from COVID research into,
It was quite a change. Yeah, it was quite a change.
So I have been reading a lot about barley because I'm a bit of a geek, to be honest. Not
No, you're not.
not as full on geeky as you, Jack. But I don't know if I can call you a geek if it's your career. No, it's fine. I can call you a geek.
Yeah, go for it.
Geek.
Right. So I've got this book, and it's like, I don't know where it's from. I think it's from like 1800s or something. And it's like the encyclopedia of farming. And I used to have a whole set of them. My stupid ex-husband's got them. This is the only one that I've got left. Right. And when I left him, he got all the stuff. And then he messaged me one day and said, you've got book A to B. I'm like, yes, I fucking do. So deal with it. Anyway, they've got like a massive section in here about barley. And I've been sitting reading it before I came on the chat. It's like the oldest cultivated crop we have. Like they can trace it back to the Egyptians. And it's literally...
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like literally mentioned in the book of Exodus. Like if we're talking about the 10 plagues. Like, I love that. It's like in the bloody Bible. It's amazing.
Barley's been extremely important to society throughout human history. Scientists now think that one of the reasons that people moved from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to a agricultural lifestyle was to brew beer and to grow barley.
That's mad. Like the gladiators were named after barley because it was like their main diet. Like they were given the Latin name after barley. So,
that would be cool. I'm just imagining the John Anderson referee on the show Gladiators introducing Golden Promise.
I didn't mean those gladiators.
I know you didn't, but that's what popped into my head.
Mark has said nitrifying microbes would make a great superhero name, and it kind of would.
It absolutely would.
Yeah, I think it'd be more a baddie's name, though, to be honest.
It does sound nitrifying microbes. What would your superpower be, Mark, if you were called nitrifying microbes?
I don't know. It'd be like, I don't know, like just going around munching everything like Pac-Man. That's kind of what I think of them as, but I also think of like yeast as sea monkeys, so that's where my brain goes. So the journey of like barley from what it was to what we've got now has been pretty intense as well. It's kind of almost like your journey into your career, Jack. So we started like sort of the big or the bare barley, which is like your kind of chunky one, and we've kind of moved all the way up to this sort of super kind of cultivated, like high yielding, kind of low nitrogen crop that we've got. But it's kind of created a problem in the process, hasn't it? Almost to the point where it's like so uniform and so samey that, you know, Absolutely. It takes one bad crop to kind of potentially ruin it all. One bad harvest to ruin it all.
Yeah. I think it's been interesting, the journey of breeding of these barley cultivars. It's happened with wheat as well, and to an extent rice. After the First World War, we were able to create a vast amount of synthetic fertilizers, so we could grow more food than ever before. Fertilizers now support 50% of the world's population. If we stopped using fertilizer tomorrow, we couldn't grow enough food for half the people on Earth. So our agricultural practices have encouraged the application of an excess amount of fertilizer. There's more fertilizer there than the plant could possibly need. And that's done two things for plant breeding. One, we've created nitrogen-hungry plants. They need lots and lots of nitrogen, in part to support high yield. But we've also provided too much food for these plants, so they've lost the ability to compete with microbes for their food. And that's where we're in the situation now, where the microbes get half and the plant get half. But we don't want that. We want the plant to get all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the alternatives? Like, obviously, like you're talking about nitrogen, sort of the downsides of nitrogen fertilizer and the fact that it can be cause sort of greenhouse gases and things, but it's also like kind of vital to this, like what barley needs, and in terms of like whiskey production as well, because like kind of nitrogen contributes towards proteins, which contribute towards enzymes, which contribute towards flavors.
Yes.
It's like, what's the alternative to that?
So, and that's where my research comes in. So I research a phenomenon called biological nitrification inhibition. And what that means is some plant varieties can produce compounds through their roots that inhibit these microbes. It makes them more competitive at taking up the nitrogen. And this has been found in many crop plants, like rice and maize and wheat. But there's very little evidence of it in barley until I started working on this. The reason the plants do this is it's left over from an age where they were wild grasses competing in a low nitrogen environment. And some crop varieties have kept this trait, but we've lost it in others. So some of the high yielding crop varieties of barley, for example, have lost this ability to compete well with the microbes. And my research is aiming to, first off, find barley cultivars where this trait is still there, and then characterize what is going on. What are the compounds there that are doing this, so that the ultimate goal is to breed this back into barley cultivation. It reduces the amount of fertilizer needing to be applied to fields, which is economically advantageous to growers. But it's also an environmental issue. If we can reduce the amount of greenhouse gas coming from a field of barley, ultimately the malting and whiskey making process is more sustainable.
Yeah, that's really, that'd be amazing to achieve that as well. It's obviously the Scottish Whisky Association set down its targets that we've all got to reach by, is it 2040? Mm-hmm. So does that involve you kind of experimenting with different strains of barley? Because like there's thousands of different strains, but only like a handful that's been approved by the International Brewing Distilling, isn't it?
Yeah, the daunting part of this research at the start was obviously the thousands of cultivars that there could possibly be, this trait could be in. And there's been a bit of work done previously looking at lots of barley cultivars and trying to pick out this trait. And the work that I presented on the poster in my my picture there is I took a targeted panel of these cultivars, ones that we think will be good, and I grew them up and looked at the microbial community and the compounds which are being produced from these roots to see which of these these cultivars were best at suppressing the microbial populations. And I've discovered a couple of them are really fantastic. The next stage of this research is to try and find out what the compounds are for future researchers to grow up 1,000 cultivars and look to see which of them are producing these compounds at the highest rate. And then hopefully we can breed that back into future barley cultivars, and we have much more sustainable barley production.
So like, yeah, that is awesome. It feels like it's maybe quite a far stretching goal as well.
Yeah, we're definitely at the start of the process at the moment. We're quite early on.
Has this research kind of come from the desire to be more sustainable, or is this something that's always kind of been in the background, but it's just been pushed more to the front, more of a kind of pressing?
You're absolutely right. It's the desire to be more sustainable. So I was fortunate to do some work with the Scottish Government as a policy advisor, looking at plant breeding policy and fertiliser policy in particular. And what struck me was that for the past 50 years, plant breeding has really been about yield and quality and disease resistance over almost everything else. And now we're starting to look at the sustainability because we are in a changing climate. So that came in first with making more climate resistant plants.
Yeah.
And now we want more climate sustainable plants. That's where this research is looking to have an impact.
Mm-hmm. And how many, sorry, did you say, you may have mentioned it, I was looking at some of the comments about the amount of varieties we're looking at any one time, because I was looking up barley varieties that are being bred, and they reckon about 15 at any one time is on the go, trying to improve what you just mentioned, the disease defense, stronger stalks, bigger yields, but only one of them might make it through to trial.
Absolutely, yeah.
So with this addition of sustainability, is that reducing that? Is that growing that? What impact is that having on the trial stages?
So we're not at trial stage yet in terms of this research. Where I come in will be likely to inform breeding efforts. This will be looking at this trait as, first and foremost, it's my job to demonstrate that this trait can have an impact. One, on the requirement for fertiliser inputs. We want that to be less. And two, the amount of those fertiliser inputs which are being emitted into the atmosphere as nitrous oxide gas. My research won't be aiming to take any new crop breeds to trial, but it will be aiming to try and provide an extra tool in the arsenal for plant breeders. That's where my research comes in. And as I said, it's in very early stages. We're maybe looking at 5 to 10 years away before this starts coming into trial.
So you're working more with the farmers and the agricultural side rather than the industry itself, or is the industry heavily involved in this at this stage?
So at this stage, the industry is almost not involved at all. This is a real academia-driven effort. So there's multiple projects in this sphere going on at the moment. In wheat and rice and maize, the big staple crops. But as far as I understand, I am one of the only people working on this in barley at the minute. It really is it's not, I don't have millions of pounds to work with. It's academia driven, and we're working with relatively small amounts of money at the moment, but we're moving forward quite promisingly and hoping to have quite a big impact here.
Awesome.
I think it's definitely something that the industry recognises, though. I mean, more distilleries are looking at things like heritage malt and sort of sort of local grown barley. We ourselves are doing it, going back to the floor malting. We source ours from the farming cooperative, so it's all, we know the floor malt is all locally grown barley. It's all commercial malt. It's all mainly laureate. And what is it that's replacing laureate just now? There's something else that's doing really well just now. I can't remember what it is. And then I know that like our company, for example, has been looking at sort of sourcing barley that's kind of planted in a little more sort of conscientious ways and like sort of no-till. Ploughing is obviously really detrimental to soil erosion and things like that. So the industry is definitely looking towards it, but like as you say, it sounds like you're still at early stages with research there as well.
Absolutely, and I do think that the industry is moving more in this direction. There's this recognition that the fertilizer loss problem is a big problem, and it's one of these rare issues where the environmental and the economic argument is both. It's on the same side. We both want to reduce the amount of fertilizer loss. I think it's interesting that there's movement in the areas of no-till and more sustainable farming, because that's where the science is pretty robust there, and we know that it works and we know that it's good. So it's great to see that there's a movement in that direction, and that pressure is coming from the whiskey industry, because they are what really drives that movement.
Yeah. I think that's it as well, because a lot of farming's been handed down from generation to generation. It's kind of part of what I always call the I always factor of people continue to do it the way they've always done it because we've always done it like that. So in terms of like no-till as well, I kind of see a slight change towards it, but especially up here in Aberdeenshire, you'll be a long slog trying to get a farmer away from his plough. It's going to take a while to convince them that no-till is way forward.
To make clear, I'm a scientist. I'm not a farmer, and when I've spoken to farmers' unions and individual growers before, I think it's important to recognise that I don't know what it's like. But I think the important thing to get across is that farmers are often blamed for this problem. They're blamed for it, and to make clear, this is biology. It's not anybody's fault, but it does need to be fixed for everybody's benefit. And I think having more open conversations and less combative conversations and blame, that's the way that we make movement here.
100%. And at the end of the day, farmers are producing. It's demand led, so people want cheaper and more. So that's what farmers are forced to produce. Whereas if it's coming from the industry and they're saying, okay, this is the type of barley that's better for us, this is what the maltster's looking for, it's going to be more financially economical. So of course, farmers are going to feel the benefit of doing that as well. Nobody wants to be the first person that's experimenting with a whole field of something, nobody else is doing, with chances are they're not going to get their money out of it. So yeah, no, it's fantastic to see it all kind of coming to the fore and being spoken about, and in such a positive way as well. Like I like what you said. It's not anybody's fault. It's science, and you're exactly right. We're all learning that things we used to do maybe aren't the things we should be doing anymore.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, change takes a long time, especially.
It does. It absolutely does.
I mean, distilleries are over 200 years old. It takes a long time to get anything.
Yeah. And a lot of them are going back to the way they've done it 200 years ago. They've changed, and now realizing that maybe that change, while it was maybe cheaper, quicker, and easier at the time, there's disadvantages. So let's go back to the old school ways of doing things because it tastes better. And ultimately, certainly today, the consumer is taste driven, aren't they? They're a lot more open to researching on their own and less marketing led. They're not just going to drink a whiskey because it's got the biggest and best adverts on the telly, or there's a lot of festivals, there's a lot of tasting events. People are far more able and armed to make up their own minds. So it's got to taste good, and if that means going back to old school methods, I think it's important that the industry does that.
Absolutely, yeah. Taking the care over all aspects of the ingredients of whiskey, I think, is important, and it's certainly it's an interesting thing to experiment with.
100%. Jack, we can't see, obviously because of the issues with your camera. But what's in your glass? Are you having a dram with us tonight?
Yes, I am. I'm actually having the Glengarry Founders Reserve.
That's a
beautifully on brand there. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's lovely.
What he's not telling, he's just saying that. He's just saying that. What he's actually enjoying is, something completely different. But he's telling you that's Glengarry.
Well, it was so much part of your wedding, and of course you're married now as well. And I think I missed you when you came back in. I think you came back in.
Yes, yeah, I did. Yeah, I came in and filled a bottle from a cask with my new wife. So, and that was a great experience.
That's right. Well, that just ties me into Mike asked me what's in my glass tonight.
I was going to ask, but you had a cat-shaped mug of something, so I thought, you're on the tea.
I am on the tea, and I've also forgotten my glass. So once I finish my tea, my whiskey's going in the cat-shaped mug. It's because we're just back tonight, and I was just kind of like rushing around, and then I got reading that Barley book, and I lost my charger, and then we lost Jack. So it was all all very exciting for a while. So I've got a little sample of this. So this is our newest single cask. I'm not plugging it, but I wanted to save this for the Blether coming back. I am plugging it a little bit. But yes, this is the new 2013 bourbon cask, and it's hands down my favourite Glengarry we've released since we did the 1991, and it is absolutely flying. I went back to work on Saturday after a week off, and it's like insane. Like we're like selling like 2 to 3 a day every single day. I think the cask's going to be empty soon. It's like it's exciting. There's just such a
what's the price? Do you like to tell us what the price of that is? It's last time we spoke about it,
110.
110 for 2013. So 12-year-old single cask bourbon.
Yeah. So we launched it for the Tall Ships Festival coming into Aberdeen because we were the official whiskey sponsor of the festival. So that was very, very cool. But yeah, it's. I'm gonna have that. What have you got, Mike?
I am on batch 5 of the Glenallachie 10-year-old cask strength, 55.9%. Bourbon, sherry, and red wine. I think maybe a little bit of virgin oak in there. Phenomenal range for these 10-year-olds. Thankfully, one that we're able to buy now that went through a stage from kind of batch 3 to maybe batch 7 or 8 that it was you couldn't buy it because it was so limited. Billy, being the clever man that he is, got really annoyed about that and just said, "You know what? We're going to double production and make it less resellable."
Was it also one of them? Maybe not. Did one of them win like world whiskey?
And
after that, people were just buying up all the batches, just kind of off the back of it.
I remember when it was the morning. I think batch 4 won just as batch 5 was released. Was it, or no, batch 4 or batch 3 won it just as batch 4 was released. There was a crossover, and we sold out overnight of this. So I get pings on my phone when we make a sale, and we're able to see, and then all of a sudden Glenallachie was selling. And I was, well, it must be an awards tonight or something like that. And sure enough, it was. But somebody had bought. We had batch 3 sitting for a wee while. Oh, there's Jack. Look at that.
You know what? I've been clicking this button since since we went live, and it's only just worked.
Amazing. Right, let's.
We've got 2 Jacks now.
No, we can do this, and we will. There you go.
Fantastic. I've taken my Thunderbird shirt off, so that'll be.
Is that what you're waiting for? Was it?
Yeah, it must have been. Yeah.
Wait for your T-shirt to dry so you could get out your Thunderbirds uniform.
You're going to have to show us your Glengarry bottle now as well.
You know what? It's my. I've been sharing it with a friend over the road, so I filled my glass just before I started, and he's gone away with it. I'll maybe nip back over the road and knock on his door.
You've definitely got a grouse or something in your glass.
I've definitely got something else in the house that I'll be drinking after this one.
Just Dave, quickly, sorry. Dave, yes, you do have a bottle of the 2013 bourbon, and it's at the Foghouse. So I left it with Annette, so that's where your whiskey is. Mike's got it somewhere.
I don't know about that. I don't think.
So I was over at Foghouse for my birthday, and
happy birthday!
Thank you, and happy birthday! Thank you very much, and happy birthday to Callum Renton, who was late because he was eating birthday cake. So happy birthday to you too, Callum.
His birthday cake, awesome. Happy birthday, Callum. Was it today? You didn't pop up on my list of. You shared a birthday with David Stirk because it was his birthday today.
It is.
And our Norwegian friend Charlie Chamonix. It was her birthday today. So if you guys are watching, happy birthday to both of you.
I'd like to think they've got better things to do on their birthday than watch the Blether, as awesome as we are.
Callum clearly doesn't.
Oh, well. We don't know officially today's his birthday. He maybe just eating up cake.
No, not yet.
Um,
But everyone's
yes.
saying hello to you, Jack. We've got Willis is saying hi, Jack. Noran saying hi, Jack.
If everyone's excited, we can see you.
Callum's saying yes, David shares a birthday with him. It's not the other way around, of course. Well, happy birthday to you, Callum. And thank you for joining us on your birthday.
Yeah, definitely.
So going by that, then Callum's younger than Kat because his birthday's after.
I mean, I like your maths, but not sure that's how it works.
But it was quite a big birthday for you, wasn't it, Kat?
It was. I turned 40, so I was very excited about that because I'm literally treating the whole of this year as a continuous birthday celebration. So, like, yeah, I'm just no holds barred. If you invite me to something, I'm just going to say yes, turn up and make it part of my birthday for the rest of the year. But it was a lovely day, and I got some amazing gifts from people, all whiskey related, which is awesome because usually I get candles. So yeah, it was fantastic. And your bar was awesome. No, I didn't. I don't like cake, so I didn't have any birthday cake. I'm not a fan of cake. So no, it was good. It was very, very good. So yeah.
Jack, we've digressed, but it was a worthy digression to say happy birthday to Callum and Kat and everyone. Where, on a personal level, where did whiskey fit into this for you? Were you a whiskey drinker before you went to uni, or was it something that you were passionate about?
Yeah, I was a whiskey drinker before I started at the University of Aberdeen. I kind of entered into whiskey as an undergraduate. Not always the best whiskey, but I was drinking whiskey as an undergraduate. But that passion for alcoholic beverages, I've always been interested by the science of alcoholic beverages. And, starting at university, I wanted to go into brewing and distilling. So that fluctuated between I wanted to be a brewer, and then I wanted to be a distiller, and then back. But the core part of that was the microbiology. So whiskies fit into that really nicely. I'm fascinated by the science behind spirits. In terms of me starting this research project, the whiskey aspect of it was a really nice bonus. I would have still done it if it was rice, maybe. But the fact that I get to work with the industry and engage with an industry that I'm passionate about is a massive plus. It's a massive bonus. And I would say that since starting my PhD and working with the industry a bit more, whiskey's become a larger part of my life. So it really is a privilege.
Could you see yourself kind of branching off into the industry at some point? Because a lot of like master blenders, even distillery managers and things have a science background, like Dr. Rachel Barry, for example, Dr. Cornelia Meduli, probably many more. If Callum's still watching, can maybe help me out. A lot of them, started off in one field of Dr. Callum Fraser, our master blender. Yeah. They started out predominantly in the world of science, and then through twists and turns of fate, a little bit like your journey, Jack, they ended up sort of realizing that there's this whole world of science in whiskey that they can get behind.
Yeah, I could absolutely see myself transitioning more into the industry more firmly. When I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago in Milan. It was a microbiology conference, and it's great to see how wide the whiskey industry, how far its reach is. So there I met a great scientist from the Scotch Whisky Research Institute, and we had great conversations about the science of distilling and the role of microbiology in whiskey. I think something that's being used in brewing now is these weird yeasts and bacteria that produce different esters and strange flavors which can't get with normal Saccharomyces yeast. I think that's an exciting innovation that the industry is looking towards. And I could see myself being part of the industry for some of those things.
It's amazing. I am always learning. I've got no science background at all, so I'm still constantly learning, which is what I love about my job. But obviously, going back to like sort of traditional distillation practices, I worked a lot with our previous distillery manager, Dr. Maduli. He had a fantastic way of explaining things, like in a way that I would understand, but also not in a sort of condescending way. And like it's just the sort of where flavor is made, from fermentation, like how important that is, and the flavors that carry over right the way through. And then thus doing the direct firing, you've got that alcoholic Maillard reaction, or however you meant to pronounce it, and even the sort of oxidation during maturation and the sort of creation of new esters there as well. It's insane how much science is going on all the time, from literally getting the barley on the floor in the malt floor right to the end before it's put into the bottle.
It's incredible.
It's like, I always think it's whiskey production is about 80% science and 20% magic, because there's just bits in there that we still don't really understand. Like,
I think it's a nice blend of science and artistry.
Yeah.
I think I'm fascinated by the science of it, but knowing the science behind a glass of whiskey doesn't take away from the surprise that I have when I drink something and I'm like, this is incredible. If anything, it adds to it for me.
I like the artistry. You use that word as when it comes to the blending, the art that people like Rachel Barry and Billy Blocker and Callum Fraser and these guys have, to be able to produce something that's not only tastes great, but consistently produce the same liquid time and time again from what is ultimately an ever-changing arsenal.
Absolutely.
It's like telling, I don't know, Van Gogh that you had to create the same painting, but he's using watercolors for one painting and oils for the next. Is it right? Recreate the same thing.
That's totally on brand as well. I went to the Van Gogh interactive
Beyond Van Gogh. Is it Van Gogh or Van Gogh? Is it Van Gogh?
I say Van Gogh because I thought Americans say Van Gogh, but like he was French, so like
I also thought Van Gogh was a tent maker.
A tent?
Yeah, Van Gogh, VANGO is a brand that makes tents.
Such a specific knowledge there, Mike. I didn't know you're such a tent fanatic.
I used to be all over my tents. Inside them, normally, not over them. But
so you're going wrong.
yeah, that's using the wrong.
Walking, always got wet.
No, there was no tents there at the exhibit, but
I was there today as well.
Oh yeah, Tony said you were going over at 4.
Yeah.
Sorry,
it was amazing.
Sorry, Dutch. You're right, he was Dutch. I said he was French, but he was Dutch. But yeah, really, really cool. See, like, I thought like sorry guys who haven't been there, but I thought like all the sort of lights pulling down onto the floor between the two doors was cool, and then you go through to the big massive room, and it was so good. Have you been, Jack?
Yes, I've been. Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Guys, because it's only until the 10th, isn't it? It's on this weekend, and that's it.
Yeah.
If you're watching, if you're in the area, get yourself to it. It's incredible. We took Killian with us, and he stood for half an hour and just watched the lights and the paintings and the walls and everything. It was just outstanding.
Wow. I think it was so nice just watching people just get lost in the moment. Like you just everybody walking through that door and stopping and being like, wow, like what am I seeing? Yeah, it's so cool.
Pete Head, aka Frank, our resident Dutchman. Van Gogh is Dutch pronounced and as Van Gogh, both the G and the CH pronounced as the CH in Loch.
Oh, so Van Gogh.
Oh.
There we go. It's always nice to have somebody who can explain it.
100%. And he was such a troubled man as well. Like when you read his story, like just never really believed in himself and seemed to be so up and down. And my favorite one is the Starry Night. And then I read that he painted it while I was in an asylum, and my son was like, "Well, that's why you like it." I'm like, really? But, you know.
Something it resonates there.
But yeah, such a clever thing that they've orchestrated and put together. Really, really worthwhile going. Would have been great if they did it with whiskey. Could you imagine if they did like a whiskey tasting in there?
Oh.
That would be awesome. Let's make that happen.
That would be pretty psychedelic. I think after 6 drams, if you're in that room, there would be a bit of motion sickness going on or something.
Especially with the moving bits on the floor. It's like when you go and stay in a hotel and you try to get back to your room like a few drinks in, and they've always got that mental patterned carpet. It just makes you go like, what the hell? I'm never going to get to the end of that corridor. And it was like that, I think, wouldn't it? You'd be staggering back out of the place. But no. Whiskey and music thing as well. We've spoken about that quite often. I like the effects of music with a dram.
Mm-hmm.
And then quite a few distilleries have done whiskey and art as well, haven't they? And then like a lot of your decanters are all kind of like your fancy kind of one-of-one auction. They're all kind of commissioned by artists and sculptors and things. So I mean, whiskey and art often go hand in hand.
It does.
It's diverse.
There's no bigger artistry than, like I say, what is in the glass. And on that, I'm going to pour another batch. I'm going to try. This is batch 7 from Glenallachie.
You're getting through them all. I really wanted, and I thought I had one, but I don't. Coleman 100% Isla, because I thought something barley related, because of course every year they do a small batch release of like their homegrown barley, or like a Bruichladdich, because they did a bear. Did they not do a bear barley one?
Yeah, it's Bruichladdich I was looking for. I don't have one here. What I do have though, and this might, I don't know if this is something, is that Millstones. This is a Dutch single rye. I don't know if you've ventured into rye, Jack.
No, I haven't actually. It's a big world that I need to move into. But no, I've not ventured too much into rye.
It's it's a completely different spirit. It's really quite vibrant and spicy. Often gives me like a eucalyptus sweetness kind of note that goes really well.
Yeah, it's quite a herbal kind of flavour. It's one I'm still trying to get my brain around. We're over at Arbiki Dram Good Whisky Festival next week, and they're rye based, aren't they? Arbiki.
Sorry?
They don't do any. Arbiki are all rye, aren't they? They don't do any single malt like proper.
Not yet. I don't think they've released one yet, but they've got rye. Yeah.
That's a place you'll have to go, Jack, or if you haven't been already. Dr. Kirsty Black. She's a plant scientist. What's the word for that?
Botanist.
Botanist.
Yeah, botanist.
The brain starting to slow down now. And like they produce their pea gin, because obviously pea is a legume and it's a nitrogen fixer for the soil. So because barley is, as you were saying before, so hungry, it kind of sucks everything out of the soil. So they do like it as a rotational crop to make their gin.
Oh well, that's something that I would love to look at. That would be really cool. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think quite a lot of the farm round about. Head down to the Whisky Festival next week, and yeah, have a look, because I think they're doing like shuttle buses. But yeah, really interesting what she's doing. What's the other gin they do, Mike?
There's Kirsty's, which I think is the pea, and then they've got AK's gin as well. AK, but I think that's more of a grain based gin.
Okay.
Then they have their vodkas. They do flavored vodkas like strawberry vodka and things like that as well. They've got quite a lot of exciting stuff going on, Arbiki. And they've got you're down at the festival, aren't you, next weekend?
Yeah, the 16th. But no, because they usually do it in Edinburgh, but they decided to base it at the distillery this year. So interested, and there's a couple of like master classes and things on. So it'll be fun to go and see what that's all about. But just a really cool vibe about the place. Everything's kind of inside a farm building, so it's kind of like old school, you know, like when like distillation was literally just done by farmers. Because last time I was in for a meeting with Kirsty to talk about the festival, she literally had just some tools in her hand because the grain dryer had broken down. So in between making the gin and the whiskey, she was off to go and fix the grain dryer as well. Totally like fangirling over her. She's like, just, yeah, a very clever lady.
Right.
Wow, sounds amazing.
Yeah, that'd be good fun.
I'm just going to give a shout to Tim, who's mentioned that the Millstone Founders Reserve 10-year-old is a nice upgrade to that 100% rye that I've got. I will put that to the test because I also have. Oh, well, no, this is the French oak. I don't know if you tried this one. Millstone. I went on holiday in Holland. It wasn't really a holiday, it was a long weekend to see Luke Combs, the country artist, over in Amsterdam. It was cheaper to go over to Amsterdam for a long weekend and come back from Aberdeen than it was to go and watch him in Glasgow. So, of course, we're going to go to Amsterdam for a long weekend. And brought back these two millstones. So,
right. Do you know what's even cheaper than that? Not going to see country and western music.
So, I didn't say country and western, I said country. And there's a difference. Country and western is what you're thinking of as the old school, my tractor broke down, my cat died, and my wife left kind of music.
Okay.
Whereas country nowadays is a bit more modern. Modern country or country rock. It's a bit more upbeat. I'm
going to take your word.
Yeah. You like country. You just haven't defined it as country in your own head.
I haven't found what I like yet. I like it. I just haven't found what I like about it yet.
Jack, what kind of music are you into?
Listen, I listen to anything. I mean, when I was a teenager, I loved Nirvana. But, you know, I stick some ABBA on every now and again. Why not? So I listen to absolutely anything. I mean, honestly, there's nothing that I won't listen to. I mean, it's quite nice late nights in the lab on my own, stick a bit of ABBA on and just
nobody else knows that you listen to it.
No, exactly.
But you can't wait. I bet you spend the whole day just, I can't. Dancing Queen stuck in my head. I can't wait until the last guy's gone before.
Everybody. I tell them I'm listening to Nirvana, but really, Mamma Mia is on mine.
I have got an image of you now dressed as Virgil from Thunderbirds, listening to Dancing Queen and just like little barley stems just swaying gently, like just like walking out with you.
Do you mind me asking, Jack, how old you are?
I am 26. I think. No, I'm 27. I'm 27.
It gets worse the older you.
Yeah, downhill. Yeah.
You just wrap that up into decades. You know, you're in your 30s and then you're in your 40s.
So Mike's now a non-age statement. Once Mike turns 40, when was that? Last year? No, the year before.
We'll go with that.
10 years ago. Mike decided to become a non-age statement, which I actually love, to be honest. It's it's just a number, isn't it? You can't measure what you achieved in years.
And technically, when if you take the whiskey analogy, you can only go by your youngest part, and I have youthful hairs growing out of my chin, so I'm going to identify as that age because it's the youngest part of me, and if I was a whiskey, that's the only bit I could legally declare.
I like that you've got youthful hairs growing out of your chin because they're obviously not growing out of your head.
I couldn't say that, could I? Because everyone knows I don't.
Yeah, no, that's very true. It hasn't taken long to diverge into nonsense. You tell me, Mike, haven't seen each other for 2 weeks. It has been full on science.
But I was going to say,
the science can get quite heavy. I mean,
I think it's great that we got that quite early on, while people were quite involved straight away. I think we go back in. I have no qualms of going back into the science at all. I think it's awesome. Let's get the heavy stuff out of the way first, and then we can digress. But what I was going to say is I use that analogy quite a lot in tastings, especially when there's a mixed age group in a room, and you try and explain, because not everyone understands that the minimum age on a bottle is the youngest cask used. And then you have, they explain the difference between single malt and single cask, and then blends and whatnot. So I look around the room for who's potentially the youngest person in the room. And then you kind of, how old are they? And say they're 21 or something. And I say, well, if this room was a whiskey, we could all be 21 again. And it kind of gets a bit of a laugh, and it makes they kind of realize what we mean by that. If everyone was it was a cask going into that blend, then everyone was 21 again. So
that's quite a good opener as well, because you're right. Actually, it's a lot of, we explain this quite often to people when they start. They look at an orange statement and they ask a question, how old is it? It's like, well, we don't really know, like, officially, because it's an orange statement. And then you start explaining, like, oh, well, so it's a blend. You're like, no, it's not a blend. So yeah, most people, like just average people buying whiskey every day, have no idea that when they pick up a bottle of 12-year-old whiskey, it's literally, the youngest age in there, because as you were saying before, like you're recreating something every single time with this massive arsenal of casks that are aging and doing crazy things. Sometimes you can open a barrel and be like, what the hell is going on with that one? Yeah. So yeah, the only way of creating that uniformity is just by marrying together just a massive pile of whiskey, which is insane. And then there must be a lot of sort of spreadsheets and maths and kind of averages, kind of, well, this row of these styles worked last time, so like I don't know the full process about it, but I've never actually seen it done as well, like the marrying together of the whiskey. Have you ever seen that part of it, Mike?
The actual vatting of something. Yeah. The closest I came to it was Glenallachie. Lindsay was vatting the 15-year-old, I think it was. For it was going into tank, but before the water was added, so the blend had happened, and it was just getting poured into the tank for adding the water. But that would be the closest I've came. I think that was just before it was released. So it was on my birthday. I remember that because Karen was our tour guide, Karen McWilliam, and gave me a nice, reasonably sized measure of a pre-cut 15-year-old Glenallachie, which is, whiskey's an experiential drink, and certain experiences go to the top of the pile when you're remembering it, and that is certainly right up there. Absolutely tremendous.
What's your your best whiskey experience or memory you've got, Jack? Obviously, you started out kind of classically with the university and drinking whiskey, but have you got a sort of standout moment? Obviously, meeting the guy that you said you in Milan, obviously, was maybe a moment, but
that was great. I've been fortunate to have quite a few memorable experiences. Obviously, coming down to Glengeary on my stag do was a great experience, and subjecting all my friends to listening about barley. I mean, it was great. One thing that career-wise is pivotal for me, which I remember is the first week of my PhD. I went down to a barley symposium in close to Invergowrie, where I met a lot of barley researchers and people from the industry to really talk about why whiskey is so important to Scotland's economy, but also to our national identity. I think it's important, and it really bestowed on me a feeling of what we're doing here is quite important, which was really nice. So that's one that's stuck with me and has encouraged me during the tricky points of my PhD. That's kept me going.
Yeah, I bet, like a PhD, that must be so full on. Have you got your PhD now, or is this still part of what you're doing?
No, so I have a year left until my submission date. So my experiments are ongoing. My barley research, it's all barley research, but my big findings around biological nitrification inhibition are progressing really nicely. So I'm writing those up at the moment to get a paper out and get my PhD next year.
Wow, that's massive.
We'll have to get you back on to celebrate that.
Oh, can't wait. Yeah, it would be great.
You could at least say that like you meant it.
Yeah, I might have no hair by the time I come back, but
you're only 27. You'll be fine. It's quite interesting, talking about the changes and whatnot, because when you think of farming or out with maybe certain niches of it, you think farming's farming. We've been doing it for 12,000 years, and it's kind of always been done the same way. And now, just after this conversation with you and speaking to guys like Mike Billett about peat and all this kind of stuff, we're realizing it's ever changing. Even though it's 12,000 years old and we kind of do a lot of things the same way, it's ever evolving. And it's almost, when we think of technology and keeping up to date in technology is impossible. You go to bed one day, you wake up and you're out of date. It must be that is a danger or an excitement of happening in things like barley growth and changes. It's evolving all the time. Is it always improving, or is there things where you say, well, that's not improving anything, we need to drop that? Or
I think it's improvement of barley cultivars really comes from a point of view. Modern barley cultivars are high yielding and have very high quality for grain spirit. They are pretty pest resilient, but we still apply lots of pesticides. But they have consistent yields and quality. The downside to that is that we have a lower genetic diversity in current crop cultivars. They are more susceptible to climate. And as we've said, we've inadvertently bred barley to love this abundance of nitrogen. So to get into the geeky part here about nitrogen loss is that when we apply fertilizer, it's in two nitrogen forms, ammonium and nitrate. And ammonium is very soil stable. It stays in the soil, it sticks there. It's great. Plant can use it. It's very cost effective for the plant to uptake the ammonium. But these microbes eat that ammonium and convert it into nitrate. And we also apply some nitrate, but it's less nutritious for the plant. It's more difficult for it to utilize, and it's not stable in the soils, so it leaves. Because we apply an abundance of fertilizer and these microbes eat it quicker than the plant can take it up, there's lots of nitrate being produced. And that's not good for the water pollution. Nitrate moves out of soils into water bodies and causes pollution. And then they're also easily converted into nitrous oxide, which is a greenhouse gas. Through the breeding process, we have unwittingly bred plants to prefer nitrate. And this idea of improvement comes with the catch-22 that we have to continue to apply larger and larger sums of fertilizer because they actually prefer that nitrate, even though it's less nutritious for them. I think there is certainly something to be said to integrating these bare barleys and the older cultivars of barley back into breeding programs to increase genetic diversity and to make it to gain preferential traits like climate resistance and nitrogen use efficiency. But we need to do that without sacrificing yield and quality, which is the challenge.
Yeah, that is going to be the challenge, isn't it? I mean, so there's, because we are bringing back a few more of the heritage malt, the heritage kind of strains. And heritage strains, are they the ones that have naturally kind of cultivate themselves, or have humans been involved with that?
So, I mean, with barley doesn't, it's a human-made crop. It first occurred in the Fertile Crescent around Egypt, as you said. Humans have been involved in its breeding for thousands of years. The heritage varieties that you're referring to are likely these bear and landrace varieties, ones that have been grown in a region for years. And that's farmer-led breeding rather than institutional or industry-led breeding. That has many advantages. Those cultivars are made for that environment, whereas these large, more elite varieties can sometimes struggle to grow in harsher environments. So, for example, in the Highlands and Islands, these bare barleys are very popular because they've been growing there for hundreds and possibly thousands of years, and they're adapted to that those soils and that environment. Whereas the more modern varieties of barley, like Laureate or Optic, really struggle in that environment, and you get very, very low yield. It's because they are nutrient hungry. They need lots of nutrient, and they don't like wind, to be honest, as well. So,
yeah, well,
not going to perform.
What were you going to say, Mike?
I was going to say they wouldn't perform. If they don't like wind, they won't perform too well. Certainly, kind of coastal. We always say that Aberdeenshire is the kind of granary of Scotland, and what is it about our climate from your point of view that makes it ideal for growing the best barley?
So I think it's interesting that it's less climate and it's more soil. So the soils that we have in the northeast of Scotland, moving down into Fife and around Dundee, are excellent for growing barley. They are well draining, they are nutrient rich, they are excellent for growing barley. And it's more soil driven than climate driven from my perspective.
Cool. I think Kat has just dropped off there. She's must be about that time when her son turns on his PlayStation or something. I just want to go back. So Reb over in Israel, Reb Mordecai, is he's watching. He's popped in a couple of comments. I just want to go back to, we're just talking about the barley. And when you're talking about improving barley and improving efficiency, is it efficiency of yield you're trying to improve, or is it efficiency of flavor? Or what's, when you describe improving the barley, what is it?
That's an interesting question, and it, from my perspective, I am talking about improving its efficiency at using the resources available. So we need to cultivars which will give us the same yield and the same quality without needing this abundance of fertilizer, being able to reduce the amount of fertilizer that we put on, and then ultimately reducing the climate effects of losing all that fertilizer. So when I talk about improving barley cultivars at the moment, it's, from my research, is purely from a sustainability perspective.
Are you looking at something that will kind of go across all barley expressions? So it's something we can use in Optic, in Concerto, in
that's a great question, and that brings forward a really interesting debate going on in agricultural policy at the moment. If and hypothetically, because the research isn't there yet, but if we can identify the gene, the thing that makes this one barley type more sustainable than the other barley type in using the nitrogen fertilizer, what do we do with it? Do we cross it into modern cultivars as a normal traditional breeding technique, or should we be using targeted breeding? So can we lift that gene out of one type of barley and put it into the other type of barley? And this is an ongoing debate around genetic modification and genetic editing in plant science at the moment. I think it's a really interesting debate, and I'm not sure where the industry is going to go, to be honest. In Scotland, we have a hard no on genetic editing, and genetic modification in crops. In places like the United States, that the law is much less stringent on these things. So it's an interesting conversation that's going on at the moment. Should we be allowing genetic breeding in crops?
Mm-hmm. So I guess ideally what we're looking for is barley that doesn't need fertilizer, that's strong and disease-free, gives a great yield, but also gives the flavour of perhaps a heritage malt.
Yeah.
That's the aim.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think
No
it's introducing these more heritage varieties into modern breeding programs. I know that is something that's being done. The catch-22 that you have there is when you traditionally crossbreed, you get some of the positive aspects from the daughter lines, but you maybe get some unwanted aspects from those daughter lines as well, which, I think there's maybe a growing market for more of these heritage varieties where maltsters may pay a premium. They know that there's going to be less yield and there might be some sacrifice in terms of grain protein. But does that ultimately result in a more complex flavor in the final whiskey? I think that's not a debate that I'm part of at the moment. I would quite like to listen in and see what people think about that.
Yeah. I think it was Reb who asked the question, is it true that there is a trade-off between barley types with the highest yield but don't give as much flavour to the whiskey? I think that's generally what the industry is looking at, and guys like Rassay and Bruichladdich and Ardnamurchan, I think, as well, are looking at barley and committing themselves to barley that would give less of a yield but more flavour.
I think it's interesting when we've bred barley varieties for to be the best cultivar possible for the whiskey industry. To most people, that meant as much sugar in the grain as possible, as much extractable sugar from the grain so that you get as much alcohol yield as possible. But I think that results in a trade-off. More fermentable sugar means less other compounds, less other proteins, which are contributing that complexity of flavor.
It's a massive debate, and I guess from a whiskey production point of view, it depends on where you are on that scale of production. I'm not going to pick on anyone in particular, but somebody like Glenlivet, Macallan, Glenfiddich are producing so much in comparison to somebody like a Glengeater and Ardnamurchan. The volume is key, and they've built that up over time they're looking for that high sugar content. They're wanting barley that produces a lot of alcohol very quickly so they can get that turnover. Whereas if you're a smaller guy, you can look at diversity of flavor and you can be a bit more picky because the risks aren't that great or that on the scale of millions of liters, I suppose. So
I guess as a smaller producer, you are pitching towards a niche audience. You're pitching towards people who want to try different whiskies and have more unusual flavors or more complex flavors. And I think there is always going to be the market for that mass-produced whiskey. But I think where different barley varieties, and I'm because I work with barley and I'm a barley scientist, but really I'm trained as a microbiologist. So I'm going to pitch in the unusual microbiology that could be involved. That's where we're going to have innovation and we're going to have niche flavors and things that are unusual and exciting and complex. That's where the smaller producers, I think, are making real strides.
And I think that
when you go.
I'm just going to say, I think they've got a market there of people who are preferring flavor over quantity. It works for their market.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they've got less of a risk factor. If something doesn't work, it's probably very small batch, and they won't do it again. So they've got that experiment where if somebody bigger tries something like that, then it's probably going to have a bigger impact on them. Kat, you're going to say?
There's always going to be the two ends of the scale. You need the volume. The reason we're in the place we are today, using the distillation practice we use, is this pursuit of sort of quality and volume. The demand for whiskey was so high, and floor malting was taking too long, direct firing was taking too long, so we all started embracing new technology to get the spirit out. So yeah, we're also going to need that volume as well, because a lot of the spirit that these big distilleries are producing is reciprocal spirit as well, so it's being used in blends and things, and they need consistency to maintain these recipes and these blends as well. And the other side of that as well is longer fermentation times, floor malt, direct firing, experimenting with different types of yeast. These are all quite expensive too, so it's going to change your £30 bottle of whiskey to a £60 bottle of whiskey, and quite a niche bottle of whiskey. So it doesn't mean that what your bigger distilleries are doing is not as good. But yeah, as you said yourselves, it just gives them less wiggle room to actually change around and play around with different types of barley, different whatever else. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and it is interesting. Like, our sort of policy at Glengarry is from grain to glass. So at every point, impacted happens there, whether it's palate feel, whether it's flavour. Because the other thing about your kind of floor malting or heritage strains of barley is it's the you get that heaviness on the palate as well. You get that kind of thick, oily kind of vintage kind of vibe coming through as well. So it's really interesting.
It is
good to play around with.
Ian Abernethy is at home. He's watching and asks, if we look at the final whiskey, how much of the flavour would be variable by the barley choice versus distillation and maturation?
You know what, Ian? I've got absolutely no idea. I think
probably makes three of us.
Laterally thinking, so going through the process, where is that chemical complexity coming in terms of the flavour? Because that's what the flavour is. It's chemical complexity. A large amount of that initially will come from fermentation. So the yeast and I guess in modern day, it's all yeast driven, but back in the day when it was backyard distillation, that would have been bacterial driven. So less controlled, more funky and weird esters coming through. The more non-fermentable products in the grain will result in different flavors. So if it's all just sugar, you'll have less complexity of or less chemical complexity compared to whether there's other proteins and other non-fermentable compounds there, or traditionally fermentable compounds there. From there, you go through the distillation process, which will cause caramelization and other things, but that's kind of a filtering step. It will bring through a lot of volatile compounds and leave a lot of those heavy compounds behind. So I'm not sure how much impact that will have on the final flavor in terms of percentage, but it would certainly be something to.
I
think that's a fascinating question, actually.
Yeah. I think a lot of it will depend on the blender as well, and what they want the final whiskey to taste like. We've mentioned before, the blender's got so much control over the final product. I think once you start blending or once you start maturing, you're going to lose. It kind of Waterford was the distillery that kind of brought this out for me, is they were so driven on the terroir side of things, where the barley's grown, what the barley is, and then they try to showcase from one distillery different farms producing barley all over Ireland. But as soon as they start marrying casks together, I think they kind of lose that train, because you can blend differences, and if you want a whiskey to taste different, you marry it together with other casks, and you can take you can kind of use that. So I think a lot of that flavor is the blender's choice. It's how do we want this to be different?
Yeah.
Not everyone will do that. You'll get people who are like Bruichladdich, for example, say this is beer barley. We want you to taste the beer barley in this. But they can lead you down that path, whether it's deliberate or not. I just think there's so many variables in that, and it's conscious choice or marketing, or we honestly want to know what the flavor is. You really need to be on the inside to know where they want you to go. I unfortunately, I think it's an impossible question because it's so easy to manipulate.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can deliberately set out to create a really impactful new make spirit, and there's certain choices you make along the line to do that, whether that's your fermentation times, whether it's the way you the malted barley, whatever, you're sort of running the stills really slow, really line arms, all these little things are massively impactful. So I think what you decide to do with that, would you spend a long time deliberately creating a really impactful new make spirit to then whack it in an Oloroso cask for 15 years and have it come out tasting like sherry? No, you probably wouldn't. So I don't really know if you can actually compare them, because as you pointed out, Mike, it really is depending on what your brand story and brand style, your house style is. If it's very cask centered, like Glendronach, they're very much about sherry influence, or like Bruichladdich, who just want you to taste what they've done by, or with their malts. So I don't know if it's one influence with other. I think it's just what a distillery has maybe focused on in terms of what their style is.
Jeremy's put the question slightly differently, and this is maybe something that you can have a say on, Jack, given your knowledge. Jeremy is saying, I guess a lot of people talk about the texture being different in heritage barley. Would there be a chemical reason why that would be the case?
Yeah, I mean, so again, as you touched on a little bit in the previous question, there's so many confounding variables here that it's very difficult to pin this down to one thing. But, and again, I don't have a paper that I can wave to say, okay, here's the evidence, but using lateral thinking and the knowledge that we have in what's going on here microbially and chemically, is that there's multiple things involved. One, the amount of ethanol obviously has a big impact on flavor. But I think these non-fermentable compounds, these compounds which act as thickening agents. In wine, you get that kind of syrupy mouthfeel because of glycol. So that ethanol has been over-fermented into glycol. And that's why you get that syrupy, oily sort of mouthfeel. A lot of esters come in various shapes and sizes, and they will have an impact on mouthfeel as well. I'm guessing that the reason that people talk about the difference in texture is because of those non-fermentable products which are present in the grain. Those things that aren't sugar, the proteins, the secondary metabolites, those things that are being transitioned through the distillation process. I think that's a really interesting question, and I don't think we have enough examples of differences in heritage barleys to really understand what's going on there at the moment. I think it's a great big question. It's it would certainly be something interesting to explore. As you said, how much cask has an impact there? I'm not sure. One thing that I would say that is often forgotten about casks is they are porous and they allow microbes in. So how much of these things that were not fermentable at the start are ultimately being fermented and microbially metabolized in the cask? I think that's something that we don't know at the moment, and it would be there's so much science to be done in the whiskey industry. It's really exciting.
I can actually just see how excited you are. Like, I just thought of something else that I really want to figure out.
Yeah, there's just not enough money, you know.
Yeah. We'll set up a GoFundMe page,
Yeah.
and we'll get the guys at home to fire you over some cash so you can go experiment.
Get you over to Port and Trewin. They've got like they're going to have like a kind of whiskey research training type element to the distillery, aren't they, Mike?
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. We'll get in touch with Georgie.
Yeah, no, you should look into them as well.
Absolutely.
And the distillery looks like, well, maybe it's not that far off. I saw it when I was over just before the festival. What a size of a bloody plant it is as well. It's going to be huge. But yeah, a lot of what they're doing is like research and education as well. So maybe try and get in touch with them and see if you get yourself a little trip over and do a bit of barley education and whiskey research.
Fantastic.
I think what you've got great potential here, Jack, is because of the work you're doing, is using that to get yourselves into doors in the industry. I think people will be really interested to hear what you have to say. The guys at home are very interested looking at some of the comments.
Yeah, we've got some great feedback. Everybody's
Reb even went as far as saying, I don't think we've ever heard this on the Blether before. Reb said, this guy knows what he's talking about. So there you go. But it's great to hear the guys at home are loving the chat and really getting engaged. But I think you could open so many doors within the industry, and it's been done before. Billy and Rachel, and even guys, Mike Billett, who's the author who wrote Peaton's Whisky. Are all now whiskey celebrities as well as bona fide scientists as well.
I think it's great to step outside of the science world and talk to people who are going to be engaging with it. And being in barley research and adjacent to the whiskey industry, I have something that a lot of scientists don't have, and it's this public excitement about the product. There are few people who are so excited about the science behind something than whiskey fans. So it's great for me for people to engage and to genuinely want to listen and talk about the science behind these great beverages.
You know what, you're right as well though. How many other things do we have a passion about in life where actually we really want to understand the chemistry and the science of the whys and wheres and hows? But I see it on tasting, I see it on tours, Mike, you see it as well every day. Like there's these questions being asked of, oh, where does that flavour come from? Or how did you do that? Or why are you doing that? And it is just, and as I said earlier, I'm constantly still learning. It's such a beautiful part of the industry that I hadn't actually really valued until we've literally just sat and had this conversation. I've seen the amount of interaction that's happening in the chat as well. It's awesome. I love that.
It's fantastic.
We'll all need a Jack on speed dial for some of the questions we get asked. I don't know, but now I know a man who does.
Exactly. What would you, if you could just put a plea out there to the industry, to the Scottish Whisky Association, whatever, what is it you would need really to pursue these kind of questions that you are literally looking at just now, but also other questions that you think more research needs to happen, other than money, or is it just money?
There are a lot of things. But really the most common, different questions need different things. Money is a common denominator in research. There's always more research to be done, but the most important thing is engagement. Having the public and having the industry get behind the science without any. There doesn't need to be financial backing. It's getting behind the science, getting it out there, being able to have these conversations. I think science can sometimes be so inaccessible to people. And with the whiskey industry here, we have an opportunity to actually engage with people on cutting edge science, because it is cutting edge. really, engagement from the industry, and most importantly, from whiskey fans, people who enjoy drinking whiskey and enjoy learning about it. Engaging with you guys, I think, is what is most important for pushing the research forward, because we highlight problems and highlight solutions.
Awesome. That's what we're going to do. Well, you've engaged a whole Blethering, a whole pack of whiskey fans.
and it's been very engaging as well. It's outstanding. I love Jeremy's what he's saying. Next time he visits McDonald's, he's going to be asking them what compounds are creating this flavor in your burger.
I don't know. Are you going to actually want to know the answer to that, Jeremy?
McDonald's burgers are actually, they have, I'll be honest, they have turned their ways around. It used to think that they were very processed, but as a celiac, they are the one fast food chain that I can go to and quite happily enjoy. I just need to ask without the bun.
No bun.
And everything's freshly made for you. You're getting a fresh burger when you ask for it without the bun. And there's no Peter, no bread or anything in it. So yeah, I'm going to defend McDonald's to that point. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm willing to accept that, because I've only just been shown by somebody that you can ask for extra gherkins if you do the machine with the machine that you press. I don't know, self-service machine. You can actually just ask for extra gherkins. I'm like,
are you sure you've just turned 40, Kak?
I had no idea that you could just do it in
they've got this big screen and you can touch things on it. It does your order. You don't have to see anyone. It's amazing. Oh my God.
So when I first moved back up here from the West Coast, I had never even used the self-service pump at the bloody fill station. I'm like, no, I'm not dealing with that. It's a real person or nothing. So I've lived a very sheltered life. But yeah, more gherkins better.
That's funny. But yeah, I mean, what Jeremy's highlighting there is there's very, very few industries that people get so passionate about the process. And when I started off as a whiskey lover and got into the industry through the shop, started doing training, started doing courses, diplomas and whatnot, and then started speaking here and finding out the truth behind whiskey making, finding out the science and the processes rather than the marketing. Mm-hmm. I always got scared. It was always a fear for me that we're losing the magic, we're losing the what rather than the why. Why do we need to know the how and the why? Can't we just be happy with that flavor? But it's the more I learn about it and the more I see people are interested in it, it's actually that magic of the how that is driving the industry far more than I ever thought it would. And it's an incredible part of it. If it was just a drink that people loved, we wouldn't have this community. It would be like vodka or gin to an extent or whatever. It's that how we get there that makes superstars out of Rachel Barry and Bill Lumsden and Billy Walker and all these guys. And these guys who spend their Thursday nights, their birthdays, coming in, eating cake and listening to us chat about it, that really makes such a great community. And I love it even more for it now that I'm involved in that side of it.
And Jack, you were a Blether watcher before we had you on anyway, so life goals. Yeah. Forget PhD, life goal achieved.
Exactly, sorted. Yeah, that's me done. I might not even finish my PhD now. Let's just give it up.
No, it's awesome when two worlds collide. I love it.
Absolutely.
And if you hadn't turned up dressed like a Thunderbird, we might never have met. So
well, no, I do think that the community around whiskey is uniquely special. I don't think you get community around this around other. I mean, do you get around other foods and drinks? I'm not sure if you do.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, and as you've touched on as well, it's just so much, especially in Scotland, it's just so much part of our heritage, our character, our sort of national identity as well. So
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
it's awesome.
I'm just going to ask the guys at home, if you can, chuck in the chat where you're from. Because I'd be interested to know what percentage of the guys watching at home are from Scotland. Because as you say, Kat, it's part of our culture, it's part of our heritage. But what I find is it's the Joe public of Scotland who are the least likely to want to know more about Scotch. They're just happy that it's from Scotland and they champion it. But it's the rest of the world that look in who are the guys who are really, really interested. And whether that's just because we grew up with it and we're, it's just everyday life, or is there something more to it than that? So if you can, guys, chuck in the chat where you're from.
I like the first one we've got is at Musselburgh. Hi, Louise. Oh, okay. St. Louis, Missouri. Wow. Edinburgh, Inverurie, Leeds.
A couple from Inverurie, Netherlands, which I have to apologise because I said I went to Holland, I went to Netherlands, of course.
I saw you corrected.
That's the football analogy. We always just say Holland because of the football team.
Campbellton.
Middle of nowhere, USA.
Ah, wow. Bergen, Western Norway. We haven't got Rick on tonight. He's where's Rick?
San Francisco.
San Francisco,
yeah.
Edinburgh. We've got a lot of Scots on tonight.
We do. We've got Leeds. From Scotland, living near London, soon moving back to near Rothes.
Oh, wow.
David Muir, of course, from Campbelltown. We've got two Campbelltown. We've got half the population of Campbelltown's watching tonight.
What do you call people from Campbellton? Campbelltonians?
Campbelltoners?
Well, maybe. Who's the other Bergen person? Oh, it was where's Roy? Jeremy's asking. You guys might actually just be in the same street. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we know where Roy is. He's in Bergen.
Where? Honestly, since you became a dad, your dad jokes have gone. Do you know?
Yep.
Do you know who? Do you remember you told that joke just before the end of the Blether for summer, and it was about the grass coming up half cut, and I had absolutely laughed at it. Do you know who told the exact same story in their stories the other day?
Mark Thompson. Yeah.
Yeah.
He definitely heard me say that.
Because he's an avid watcher of the Blether, of course. When he's running up mountains and looking all suave and swoony like on them tastings.
Suave, swoony, and sweaty. Bet you never put those three together.
Well, I will now.
I was in McDonald's today after our Van Gogh experience, and they have little colouring in things. It's all to do with pirates, and I saw a joke on it, so I'll tell the joke.
Go on then.
When does a pirate buy his ship?
When does he buy his ship?
Yeah.
I don't know. You have to tell us.
When they're on sale.
Oh.
You're so pleased with yourself.
I am. I laughed at myself. To myself, not at myself. I laughed to myself when I read it. And I told her, just gave me a look, and she's like, "Yeah, you read that joke, didn't you?" So, yeah. And I keep it for the most appropriate moment. And I thought that
was a good one. Very on brand with Aberdeen being the Tall Ships Festival location.
Did you get down to Tall Ships, Jack?
No, I was at a conference in Milan, unfortunately. Not unfortunately.
Oh.
But I was at a microbiology conference in Milan.
You microbiologists, you know where to stage your conferences, right? It's like, well, we go to Milan,
Yeah, Milan, Malaga, why not? Dundee.
Often confused with Milan.
Yeah, climate similar.
Oh, well, it was a good festival. I think off the back of your joke, Billy Abbott's just said blocked and reported. So,
Yeah, I think that's a bit harsh. Red wants me to walk the plank.
I see what he's done there. Yeah.
Norin said, boo, but really funny. I thought it was funny. I'm
Well, maybe
not going to be the first dad to say that.
I was going to say maybe we need to do a joke of the week, but I think Mitch does it on Not Another Whiskey podcast, doesn't he? Does he not do a joke, or he used to do a joke at the end, I think?
I mean, what we're going to hear is tune in next week's Not Another Whiskey podcast where we talk to Jack Henderson.
Jack Henderson. They just
Stop stealing our guest, Mitch.
And I don't know whether he watches the whole of the Blether or he just sees who we had on my stories. He's like, yoink, I'll have them. But that's fine. Like, imitation's the highest form of flattery, so it's all good.
Well, exactly.
And you're very welcome to go onto their podcast after you've been on ours. You know, you can just tell them how awesome the Blether is.
I'll just repeat the same.
What you need to do is at the start of every sentence is, well, as I said on the Blether. And then
as I famously quoted on the Blether. Yeah, definitely.
And then drop us in uneditable bits as well, so they can't take it out.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, we'll get your t-shirt that says the Blether on it, but it's a podcast, so nobody would see that.
Yeah, I'll just need to mention it like between every breath.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Well, it would be awesome to get you back on again soon anyway, once you've kind of got your PhD and you've got further down the road with all your research, and we're hearing your name in all the kind of whiskey magazines. And
well, here's hoping.
Yeah. No, 100%. Honestly, like, what you're doing sounds absolutely amazing, and the fact that it's like kind of little old you just kind of working away, like just bopping out to ABBA, like I feel like you know, it's a lot of work, but like I feel like you're kind of like on the cusp of something like really important, really amazing as well. And it must be so difficult to get through a PhD. You've literally just got married, you're young. Like, well done you for just sticking in. I feel like such a mum saying this to you, but well done you. Like,
oh well, thank you so much. And you know, it's so great to get support from the wider community. Science can be such a bubble. It's so important to step out of science and, you know, talk to people who are excited about your research. So I do really appreciate the opportunity to be on, and it's been a pleasure. And thank you for everybody watching and listening. Thank you for all your questions. It's been fantastic.
It must give you a little sense of joy, or that little fuzzy feeling as well, that when you're talking to people and you find out that on an everyday level people are interested in if they can relate it to something.
That's what it's about. Yeah,
that's
what gives you the
science
passion to do it.
In labs and in experiments and stuff like that.
Yeah,
knowing that there's an end game and knowing how much it's going to mean to so many people drinking whiskey, not just whiskey, but it must have impacts on brewing and beers and things like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, food stuff as well. So
yeah, we forget that, you know, barley is important around the world. It's particularly important to Scotland's economy, but it's important around the world. It's the fourth highest yielding cereal crop, or any crop, in the world, and it's an important cash crop everywhere. So making it more sustainable, and something that I do need to point out, which is important, is reducing the requirement for fertiliser inputs. Fertiliser is often a barrier to entry to a lot of low-income communities. It simply is just so expensive. So reducing the amount of inputs that we need means that we can grow more.
100%. And we are losing a lot of barley grown ground to housing estates and things like that. So we need that. I am going to ask you, if it's a fourth, what are the top three?
Rice, wheat, and maize. So corn.
I would have guessed rice and wheat, but maize was it.
Yeah. And you know, you can only make whiskey out of one of them. So
the Americans would disagree.
Well,
Fair enough.
If people kind of wanted to follow your journey, I know you share quite a lot on LinkedIn. Is that sort of the best
LinkedIn's good. I'm going to start being a bit more active on Blue Sky. But yes, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best way that I'll do the science part of things. Yeah, is LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Jack, I'm going to remind you that Kat and I are in our 40s now. What's Blue Sky?
I just
I think it's become the sort of alternative to Twitter or X.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, you know, with people not liking Elon Musk, and it's for the science community, it's less algorithm driven. So the platform's less in charge of what you see.
Oh, well, we've learned multiple things tonight. Reb is on a roll with dad jokes, by the way. He's just said corn. Well, I'm amazed at that. That's yeah, you've started something now, Mike.
Yeah. Did you not see his last one? Piracy is very addictive. Once you become a pirate, you get hooked.
Oh my gosh. They're just writing themselves, aren't they?
They are indeed. They are indeed.
Finishing on a high.
But Jack, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much Ed, for persevering with the camera and getting you on. It's been so good to have you on the chat. Thank you for stumbling into Glengarry and your stag do, because it just opened so many doors for us to get you on.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
We just want to say, Kat, have we got next week's guest lined up?
Yeah, we do. Next week is Sarah from Lochranza Distillery. So I met her while she was a guide, but she recently moved over into production. So it'll be really fun to hear her journey from one into the other. She's pretty active on social media as well, so maybe some of you guys follow her. So yeah, it'd be awesome to get her on for a wee chat about all things Arran.
Awesome. As if we needed an excuse to crack open an Arran whiskey.
I know, right? Time to get my Arran Amrone out, which is always one benefit of dating an Italian. I know how to say the E at the end. Awesome job. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been good fun.
Thank you, everyone at home, for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the chat. We will catch up with you next week, if not before. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.